Hallo.
Welcome to the No One Buys Rotten Food podcast, where we explore all topics related to becoming more competent and confident so that you can create genuine relationships and live a meaningful life. My name is Mario Augsburger, and our guest today is my best friend Felix. We started off our discussion talking about friendship and then ended up talking about things like how age and experience has changed our perspectives on relationships and dating. Why women find Felix so attractive, manipulation versus just being yourself, and so much more. When editing this episode, I realized that the reason why most podcasters sit so far apart is so that speaker A's microphone doesn't pick up what speaker B says and vice versa. Well, I made this mistake and I tried for the longest time to fix the echo I created through this, and I hope I did alright. The second mistake I made was that I relied on one camera battery only, and towards the end of the episode, the camera switched off and we had to finish our discussion without video. Now, instead of trying to appear all perfect, I thought it might be interesting to let you in on all the mistakes that I'm making and the lessons I'm learning on my way to becoming a competent podcaster. Now, all that being said, please enjoy this episode of the No One Buys Rotten Fruit podcast. Felix, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's really strange to speak English with you.
Yeah, it is. It is gonna take me like 5 minutes to get used to it.
Yeah, because I don't think we've ever had a conversation in
No,
English.
not really. I mean, the funny thing is we did have conversations in Spanish, which
But did we have conversations in
not like with
Spanish
only
only?
the two of us,
Yeah.
no, but like with other people
Yeah.
around.
It's kind of funny that we speak the same languages because
Yeah.
we both are fluent in 3 languages. And I mean, I know a little bit of Portuguese as well, and you know a little bit of Swedish.
Well, yeah, that's a bit exaggerated to
I mean,
used to.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say the same for Portuguese because I used to speak Portuguese relatively well, but then I didn't use it anymore. And I don't know, it just kind of
I
like
learned
dies
it
out.
for some time because it's a language that really interests me, but I wouldn't claim to be any good at it, to be honest.
Why Swedish?
Because I went there many times actually with my dad to go fishing, and I just really liked the country, and it kind of just made sense to try to get a little bit also into the like culture and
Mhm.
language of the country, you know.
And what exactly did you like about the culture?
Swedish culture, to be honest, I didn't really dip far into Swedish culture because when we went to Sweden, we kind of tried to stay away from people because it was, for us, it was like outdoor, like an
So
outdoor
you
vacation.
spent more
you know.
time with fish
It was
than
like,
with people?
yeah. Yeah, sometimes there weren't even fish, but yeah, it was a fishing trip.
Okay, that's cool. And I mean, it's really interesting that we never spoke in English, even though we've known each other for how long now?
To be honest, I don't really remember not knowing you. So, yeah.
I think it's been around
Yeah, it's been a while.
25 years,
25 years probably.
something like that.
Yeah.
So we met in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't really tell you like the moment we met. You know what I mean? I couldn't really remember the first time I saw you or anything because it's just
Yeah.
too long ago, but must have been somewhere in kindergarten.
I just remember there was a new cool kid. Everyone was like, "Oh, I want to be friends with this guy," and he was like a new popular guy in the
Really?
kindergarten. Yeah, I remember that. And people were playing with you because you were relatively extroverted, I think.
You think so?
Yeah,
I wouldn't describe myself that way, to be honest.
I mean,
but
I think you got more quiet as an adult. I think as a kid
maybe.
you were very
yeah,
extroverted.
maybe I was a bit like hyper as a kid.
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, also you were hyper intelligent in school, so it was always like you were bored and then you just started doing something else.
I don't know if
That's
it was
what I
because of that
remember.
or yeah, maybe.
Well, he's also very
That
humble.
would be the nicest way to like describe it.
Yeah, he's also extremely humble. But no, that's what I remember. It's kind of interesting because I think I am a little bit more what people would describe as extroverted nowadays, and you're a little
Yeah.
bit more calm and
Quiet.
quiet. Whereas I think as kids it was the other way around. So I remember myself as a kid being extremely quiet. I don't know if you see it like
you were
that.
quiet, but you were still like a really, let's say, active, energetic person.
Yeah.
And you still
True.
are.
Yeah, true.
Much more than I am.
I mean, even right now, when I got you for the podcast, I was running to your home.
Yeah, I mean, he literally did. He picked me up at home and he was like, yeah, I just ran to your place. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time seeing you running to my place. I don't remember if that ever happened. Well, as a kid, you probably did. So regarding languages again, do you feel like you're a different person when you speak a different language?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely, yeah. It's like a whole different personality.
So what's the German Felix like? Because people don't know the German Felix. People who are listening right now, they only know the English Felix.
I'm not sure if there's like a real me, or let's say I'm not sure if in one or the other language I'm more real or more authentic. I don't know. I do think that it makes a difference whether or not the language you're speaking is your mother tongue or not. Because when I was younger, or let's just say like a few years ago, I was always thinking that I could like also be in a relationship with someone and speak like English or Spanish. And I'm not so sure about that anymore.
Okay.
Because I do feel that when I talk in German, it's like, I don't know, it's your mother tongue. I mean, it's literally the language you spoke with your mother. I mean, that's like much more connected to like childhood experiences and to so much stuff that like literally shaped you when you were younger. You know what I mean? So I'm not that sure about that anymore, because I do feel that German kind of like hits closer to home, you know? But
Yeah.
it's like closer to the heart.
Yeah. I mean, also because I think you've spent most of your life in Germany.
All my life.
All your life,
Yeah.
really.
I mean, I traveled, but I never really lived anywhere else.
Yeah.
So.
Because for me, there's like this inner conflict. It's really like when someone speaks German but they don't speak Spanish, I'm missing in them the Spanish part of my life, because I was not the Spanish, it's like more the Colombian part, because I was in Colombia for many years.
Yeah.
And also with English, because I like pretty much everything I do is in English.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of missing that part if someone doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
But also I understand the German part. Like I miss the German part. But that creates a lot of conflict, I think. Because then you need someone who speaks all three languages.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, it's super interesting to have someone that speaks another language. And it's also like, for me, really interesting thought to maybe be in a relationship with someone that I speak Spanish with, but I think I would still like the person to speak German. Maybe not as their mother tongue, maybe just as a language they learned at some point. But I don't know, I think I would like to have that feeling that this person understands what I say when I say something in German. Because also when we would be around my friends, like 90% of my friends are Germans, that person would like kind of get what I'm talking about with my friends, and would be like easier to integrate this person into like my family and my like social circle and everything.
You know, I just had a random thought.
Yeah.
We should write a book at some point that is not in one language but in three languages, and like it changes in the middle of the sentence to another language, so only we understand it, and anyone else that speaks the same languages as we do, which would be really funny.
Yeah.
Well, you're really good at learning languages, I think.
I think we talked about that topic before. I think I'm good at learning languages, but I don't think I'm like better than anyone else.
I think you are.
I think because I don't really
that's when his humble side comes out again.
Because I don't really believe in talent, you know. I believe that I'm just really interested in languages and really like passionate about learning languages. And I mean, it might seem to people that I had like an easy time learning, let's say, English or Spanish, but it's not like someone just came and gave it to me. I mean,
you
I
did
put
something.
a lot of effort
Yeah,
into learning
you
it
did.
and a lot of time. So and people don't see that, you know?
Yeah. That's actually a really interesting topic, like the talent thing, because I always go back and forth. It's like, does talent exist or does talent not exist? And I actually think that it's a mix. Like with some things, you can, like, everyone can teach themselves to learn something, but some people might learn it easier than other people.
Yeah, I mean, there's
because of personality types
Yeah.
and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah,
What-
a little bit, probably a little bit, but I think that interest plays a much bigger role than most people think. If you're really interested in something or really passionate about something, or let's just say you have just a lot of fun doing something, I think that's when your brain really starts learning, you know, when you have fun doing something. And for me, it was always a lot of fun doing it. So I think, and you know, when something's fun, when you have fun doing it, you do it a lot. And when you do it a lot, you learn a lot, you know. So that's like, for me, I think that's like the way it goes.
And I think that's what they often do wrong in school, because it's kind of like, I always, for example, I don't just have to have fun, I have to understand the why behind things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, when I learn something, I want to know why I'm learning it. So for example, if you're learning a language, then, like, let's say you learn Spanish. I mean, back then you had a Spanish girlfriend as well,
Yeah.
so it was a motivation for you to learn
That's
Spanish.
it. Yeah, motivation.
So there's the motivation behind it. So there's a why behind it.
Yeah.
So, and in school, sometimes we learn something, or kids learn something, and they ask, why do we have to learn this? And then the teacher says, well, you just have to learn it to pass the exams.
You need to be a functional part of like working class society later when you grow
Yeah,
up.
they don't usually say that, but that's basically what they mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it demoralizes the kids.
Yeah, it
I
does.
think.
It does.
Yeah. Because I think every kid has the natural instinct to learn. Kids want to learn stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. It's actually really funny, because the first memory I have of you is, I don't know why that just came to my mind randomly, but is you teaching me about the difference between frogs and toads.
I don't remember, but I remember you telling me that that's like...
I remember that. That's like the first memory really I have of you.
Yeah. So do you still know?
No, I don't remember. Okay, tell us the difference again.
Well, I couldn't like really tell you from a biological like point of view, but if I see one, I can tell you if it's a frog or a toad, because toads, they're like a bit uglier, you know, they're like a bit fatter and like shorter legs and not that like elegant, and they have like these kinds of pimples on their skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the frog is smooth.
It's like that still doesn't really show me the difference.
And a toad is like bumpy. You know?
Okay. You're gonna have to show me again at some point. Because back then we were in the forest, at least you showed me, but that was like 25 years ago, so I don't really remember. So, why do you actually think we're friends? And why do you think we're friends? Or why do you think we're good friends?
I think, I mean, there's like thousands of reasons probably, but one of them I think would definitely be that we never really had that weird kind of relation to one another that a lot of men have, where they don't really show feelings, or they try to like play tough all the time, or don't dare to show their like vulnerable side. I mean, we were always like, man, I'm not feeling good today. I feel like shit. I need your help, but I have a problem. What do you think? You know what I mean? And I think we really kind of bonded by doing that. And I think, I do think that a lot of times in like a man-to-man relationship, we don't really do that because we're kind of brought up in a way that we kind of think that we can't be vulnerable or like feel bad or be depressed, or you know what I mean? We have to be the manly man all the time.
Yeah.
And I think we never really did that. We were always like really honest about ourselves also, you know.
Well, maybe as kids we pushed each other a little bit.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But at some point we kind of
you
figured out that that's not the way to go.
This is actually really interesting because I think you kind of need both. So I have some friends where it's the complete opposite, but it still works out with them because we push each other, right? So I have I have one friend that comes to mind. We constantly push each other, and that's sort of our friendship. But we don't usually, like, our conversations are not as deep when it comes to me having a problem, right? Because it's just like this pushing, right? So, and I think relationships in general, all sorts of relationships, they become deeper, and you start having an emotional connection really when you open up, right? So when you open up, then that shows you it's okay to open up, so you can open up, and then I open up even more, and then it goes like that. And
but someone has to start, right?
Someone has to start, and then there is a lot of trust, basically.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Right.
trust.
It's trust.
And another thing that comes to my mind is that I don't know why that is, but you know, our friendship is like we actually don't really see each other that often because you're traveling a lot and I'm here most of the time. But still, it's always been that way that we don't see each other for a long time, and then we see each other again, and it's like you've never been away, because we can also kind of like we can not have contact for a long time, and it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? I mean, last time when you were away, we called each other a lot, and that was really nice. But we also had times when we didn't do that, but it didn't really matter because, you know, once you were back or once we saw each other again, it was like always. And I think that's like a really nice thing to have, because it also gives you like this trust, because there's always going to be times, at least in our friendship, because I mean, your life is like you're traveling a lot, right? So there's always going to be those times where we don't see each other, but it's super nice that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really cool. And I remember many years ago, I kind of was feeling unsure about that. I was like, oh, I'm going to see Felix again. I haven't seen him for so long.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's still going to be the same.
Yeah.
And then it was still the same. And then the next time I was still wondering, like, same thing. It was like, I wonder if it's still going to be the same. And then it was still the same. But after a while, I didn't wonder about it anymore. It was just
that's
like,
what I mean. That's what I mean. You can kind of rely on it.
Exactly. You can rely on it. You can trust.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing in friendship, because a lot of friendships are not that deep, and you cannot really trust that the person will be the same. Well, they don't have to be exactly the same, but they have to receive you in the same way.
Yeah.
And accept you in the same way.
Definitely.
And I think that's something we have. And what do you think are the main points we're different and the main points we are similar?
Okay, different. I mean, we kind of already touched that, but I think between the two of us, you're the more energetic person, I think. The more active person as well. You're a bit more outgoing than I am, I think. Maybe, I don't know if extroverted. I know that you wouldn't describe yourself as extroverted.
Well, it always depends on the definition of extroverted,
Yeah,
because
I
there's so
know.
many definitions
Yeah,
out there
that's why.
nowadays.
That's why.
Mm.
But yeah, things that we have in common, I think there are many things. I mean, first of all, we literally grew up together in the same tiny ass village. So, I mean, that's that, first of all, okay? I think, and that's already a lot. Because I mean, that your childhood shapes you.
I think
Definitely.
it shapes your values.
Also, yeah, also. But then we kind of also, and I don't really know why that is, but it's nice. We kind of went through a really similar process when we grew up, also especially during the last few years. I mean, the way our like perceptions or values or ideology, I know I don't want to call it ideologies, but the way we think kind of changed. And it's normal that it's changing when you're like getting older. But in our case, it kind of like changed at the same time into the same direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it happened a few times even.
Yeah.
What do you have in mind? Which time of our lives exactly do you have in mind?
When was that? That must have been like a year ago, maybe something like that. A year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. No, like a year and a half, something like that. Because I remember before both of us, we were like super into this kind of like open relationship, polygamy kind of thing, you know, sexually open.
Yeah. I know what you mean. And I mean, the funny thing is we were both in that as well. So we both went at some point into that direction also kind of at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We started that thing together, but we also ended it together. Because I remember, and that was the time when I was traveling and you were in, I don't know where, I think you were in Colombia, probably, because we were in Colombia traveling together, and then I moved on and I was in Peru later on, and I was in Peru and we were talking a lot like on the phone. And I remember like talking to you on the phone and telling you like, dude, like in the past few weeks, I'm kind of thinking that all of that open relationship polygamy thing that's not the right thing. I think I took a wrong path there, and I don't want that anymore in my future. And you were like, yeah, me too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I kind of
well, that's simplified.
That's
like super simplified, but
yeah. But it was like that.
It was a long process. It wasn't just like one phone call, but it was a long process, but it was the same process, you know?
Yeah. And then I think it was also like this back and forth, which is really interesting, which is a big part of our friendship, I think, where it's kind of like one of us, it's kind of like you have a big change of mind, and then you think, oh, maybe not. Right?
Yeah.
And then you go back to your old way of doing things.
Yeah, you doubt. Yeah.
And then the other one is like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
and kind of gets you back on track.
Yeah.
And then maybe the next moment it's the other person and it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think this is something we had many times with also ex-girlfriends, that it's kind of like one of us made a mistake and the other one could see it clearly from the outside perspective, because you always need an outside perspective, because you yourself are caught up in your emotions, and you can't see it, but the outside person can see it, and then you fix the problem, and then 2 months later it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And we had this many times, like where then, I don't know, like you had a problem, and I told you about it, it got you back on track, and then 2 months later I had the same problem.
That's what I was talking about. We kind of went through the same phases more or less at the same time. I mean, we had like our horror phase, and then we had like our spiritual phase, and then we had our like I don't know what phase, but
Yeah, so what is our phase right now?
Ooh, I don't know. I think it's always easier to.
We are responsible citizens.
Yeah.
It's the responsible citizens
I think
phase.
it's always easier to label those phases when they're over.
When they're over.
Yeah. Because then you can kind of look back at it and see it as like a whole thing. You know what I mean? But while you're still in it, you always think that, oh, now I'm like, I know how life works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's also really interesting when it comes to problems. I think a similar thing happens. So the problems you have right now, because you have them right now, they seem to be so big, so important. And then when you look at them a year from now, you might not even remember them.
Yeah.
You might not even remember that you had that problem. And that's also something I've noticed with my clients. When I help them fix a problem, they don't even realize that we fixed the problem because they're now already thinking about the next problem. And they just don't really realize how far they've come.
Yeah.
Even though they have come really, really far.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thought, definitely.
What are the main beliefs that you have shifted in the last couple of years? Not just regarding relationships, but also just everything.
I mean, the biggest one would probably be the one we already talked about, like with the relationship thing regarding open relationships or whatever. And I think I kind of, like in general, I kind of became more, some people would say more conservative, but that sounds kind of stupid and I wouldn't call it.
I think it's kind of conservative. I think it's the right word.
Yeah, but I don't really like that term because it's also like a political term.
Oh, yeah, true.
And I think that another thing that really changed for me is that I became much less political, like in general. Because when I was younger, a few years younger, I used to be really like political. I had a political opinion, I had like my standpoint and I had an ideology, definitely. Like this kind of really left-wing, open-minded, whatever type of ideology. And if you were to ask me now, I would say that I find it kind of stupid to adhere to any kind of ideology. And I try to, not be part of any ideology or like a political side, because I mean, when you look at politics in Germany, for example, we kind of have that thing that the like right-wing popular party, the AfD, is like the second biggest party out of all. And right-wing people say, oh, the lefties are the problems, and the right-wing people say, oh, the left-wing people say, oh, the right-wing people are the problem. But in my opinion, the division is the problem. You know what I mean? And I think it's just really stupid and outdated to think in terms of left-wing and right-wing or conservative or liberal. Because it just really doesn't make sense. It's outdated for me. And I think we have to stop thinking that way, because what we're doing is that we're dividing the world into good and evil. And it just doesn't work that way. And to come back to your question, I think that's something that really changed in me, because I didn't used to see it that way. I had like a fixed point of view, and I was like, oh no, all these other people that don't think like me, they're wrong. And there's like a right way to see it, my way, and there's a wrong way to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no, I'm completely against that.
There's actually an interesting thought I have about this, which is kind of like it's kind of like an inner conflict. I love inner conflicts. I have a lot of inner conflicts. I like to always kind of like have this idea and then take it apart. And I think you like to do that as well. And I often have an idea, take it apart, tell you about it, and then you take it apart even more and whatever. But so this thing is, when you identify with any ideology, well, let's say you're conservative,
Yeah.
right? Then any idea that comes that is not conservative, that is more left, like let's say you're right, and any left idea comes, you're gonna disregard it immediately because you have already identified with being right.
Exactly. That's the thing. Because people, I mean, for a lot of people, it's not about what someone says. It's about who says it.
Yeah.
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And that's why I told you that I don't really like saying I became more conservative, because I didn't. What I did is I started to try to understand standpoints of people that have a different standpoint from my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I became more conservative or that I am conservative or that I am liberal. I'm nothing, you know.
Yeah.
I just try to not see it in those terms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because even though now you adopted some beliefs that are considered more conservative, if a liberal comes along and says something that makes you change your mind on them, then you will change your mind because they just happen to be right when it comes to this topic. And that gives you a lot of flexibility. Now, the conflict that arises is where to identify and where not to identify in general, because not just with these sort of things, but in general, because whenever you identify with something, it also kind of gives you a sort of stability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, someone identifies with being Christian. It gives them a stability because it gives them a fixed value system that they know what to do. Like they know that they shouldn't lie. They know they shouldn't.
They know who they are.
Yeah, they think they know who they are and all that.
Yeah.
But if you now take that away, then you don't know who you are, or it's more fluid. It can change any moment, and that can be very scary. So I'm always thinking, is it good sometimes to identify with something, or should you just always be like what you just described, like just look at everything separately? Because I think sometimes there's so many things that are extremely complex in the world that we might not be able to analyze everything. Right? And that's a little.
I mean, the other question would be, is it even possible to like just look at everything from an objective point of view? Because I mean, you could also argue that everything that I just told you is just another thing that I identify with. You know, now maybe I identify as the guy that sees everything from an objective point of view, but that's just another thing that I identify with. You know what I mean? So that would be also another question. Is it even possible, or is it just like something so natural for us to identify with something? Maybe we need something to identify with. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. I mean, I couldn't answer that question.
Yeah. I think maybe the answer is you have to be able to shift gear, or I don't know what the word for it would be, to whatever is needed right now. And I think you can identify with certain things that give you a basic structure, but then when someone challenges it, for example, you're also able to adapt. You're also able to shift. And you kind of, certain things you cannot understand, you cannot, like, for example, I think there are certain things in religion that are certain rules, and not just religion, any ideology or whatever, certain rules that are super, super old. They are hundreds of years old or thousands of years old, and they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
But we might not know the reason, and we might not even be able to figure out the reason within our whole lifespan, because the reason, the reason it is that way is something that happened with it. Like it took like hundreds of years for the religion to get to that conclusion. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, actually, yes. But I don't know how it is for you, but for me, because you said you might never be able to understand why this religion proposes this or that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But in my experience, the older I get and the more like experience I collect in my life, the more I start to understand, for example, why Christianity proposes certain values or standpoints or rules. Because, for example, I kind of like, with time, I really started to understand what sin means. Or let's say I started to understand why the Bible is talking about sin. And I'm not Christian. I wouldn't consider myself Christian or religious in general, but I do understand what the Bible is. I think I understand what the Bible is talking about when it talks about sin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because earlier I was like, yeah, I can kind of understand, or I can totally understand why it's a sin to, let's say, kill somebody, because obviously that's kind of a shitty move, you know? But I was always like, but I don't really understand why it should be a sin to have like casual sex. And now I kind of do, because I don't really believe in heaven or hell. Or maybe it's like heaven on earth and hell on earth, you know, but that's just nothing else than negative consequences that you have to face when you take certain actions. And I do think that having too much casual sex in your life is like just not good for you, to put it that way, you know. It kind of fucks you up with the time. So I think I kind of started to understand why certain religions are like proposing those kinds of standpoints. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard for me to explain it right now, but
I know exactly what you mean. And I think this, you can go extremely deep on this topic, I think. But I feel like even the concept of God is like, no one ever asks themselves what is even meant by God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you really look deep into it, then you can kind of see, okay, maybe, like I used to think when people say they believe in God, I used to think people just believe in this bearded man up in the clouds or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I don't believe in that. But when you think about it, more in a more deeper sense, then maybe God is some sort of pattern, some sort of like, it could be a lot of things, but maybe some sort of patterns of belief and action or something like that, right? And that then is not so woo-woo anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like practical. Yeah, it's like what does God stand for? So look, God could just be a concept. Do we believe in this concept? Well, we could believe in this concept, right? And if you believe in this concept, and this concept comes with certain rules and certain things you should do, shouldn't do, and whatever, to have a fulfilling life, meaningful life, if you follow this concept, if you follow the rules that it proposes, then you will have a certain life, like a certain life that is probably going to be better than if you didn't believe these.
And a healthy life, I think.
Yeah, this is really interesting because we've spoken about this a little bit, but not much. But I feel like we're also going into the same direction when it comes to this, for example. And this was just an example. What do you think are some things that you are looking for nowadays in a partner in a girlfriend that you didn't look for before?
That's kind of a hard one, to be honest. I mean, first of all, I'm not really like looking for a partner because I don't think it's good to look for a partner. I kind of have this view that a partner is someone that you just meet, and if you start looking for a partner, you start to, at least if you're desperately looking for a partner, you start to make compromises, and you shouldn't. But in general, I would say that nowadays I do believe that, unfortunately, maybe being in love is not enough to have a like successful or nice or long-lasting relationship. I mean, there's more to it than just having feelings for someone. And I didn't see it that way earlier. I mean, when I was younger, a relationship for me was just something purely based on feelings, a romantic relationship at least, based on romantic feelings towards another person. And nowadays, I don't see it like that anymore. I mean, it's a part, definitely, and it's probably also the most beautiful part about it, but I think we have to admit that it's not the only part.
Yeah.
There's much more to it.
And what is one thing that is like very specific that you now look for in a partner that you didn't look for before? Because I got something.
Okay, tell me yours first.
Okay, I have realized that there is this thing I could never describe. I was like, well, when a girl does this and she does this, and I couldn't really put it into words.
Yeah.
And I kind of summarize it into nurturing qualities. And I mean, that's not the only thing I'm looking for, but that's something that I really appreciate in a woman that I didn't actually know that this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Right. So nurturing qualities. So everything, I don't know, like just simple things like you're coming home from work and
she has dinner ready.
She said she has dinner ready. Okay, yeah, this one is very traditional. No, but like not like she has to do that, but she does that because she wants to be.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like she wants the best for you and for your relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that's something I really appreciate. Whereas before, I think I don't know, I didn't really look for that much. And I even had some ex-girlfriends that were really good at that, but I wasn't ready for that. I was just like, maybe too young or too immature to see that. And that's something that changes. Do you think things like that change more with experience, or is it an age thing?
It's both. Or is it like I think it's both, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, in my case, for example, still it's kind of a hard one for me, but I think I would say that one thing I noticed, for example, when I look back at my like ex-partners, which are two,
like long-term partners are two. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like official relationships, you know what I mean? I kind of want someone, or let's say I definitely want someone that likes being in nature, because I love being in nature. I love going camping, hiking, fishing, all those things. And I mean, I think my ex-partners, they were more like city girls.
What's some?
You know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you.
Even your first one? Because I think she...
Less than the second one, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, both of them tried, and I went camping with both of them because they did it for me, which is really nice and which I appreciate a lot. But I would really like to have someone that also has the same interest or passion, you know what I mean? So that's one thing. And the other thing is, which seems kind of stupid to me when I look at it now, but like in my past relationships, I never really, or let's say if I were to go into a new relationship now, right from the beginning, I would talk to that girl about how she imagines her future, like what she would like her life to look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't do that. I mean, you do that like a year into the relationship, yes. But but wouldn't it be more?
Well, when you're younger, yeah, you don't do that.
Wouldn't it make more sense to do it like
right at the beginning?
Not even at the beginning, but before you actually go into that relationship, you know?
Yeah.
Before you make it like official, or before you decide to like try and make it work with that person. Because I think my ex relationships, they were almost exclusively based on romantic feelings. You know what I mean?
There's a nice quote I read the other day. I don't remember exactly how it was, but it was something like, the right person comes into your life once you've suffered enough to be ready for them.
Yeah, maybe.
And this just reminded me of this, because at first it's kind of like, oh, I should be talking about all these things if we are actually a good match for the future. But the moment is just really awesome, and I just want to make out with her right now. And then you just don't.
Yeah.
Then you just kind of ignore those things, and then you get hurt because things don't go well.
Yeah.
And then you might do it again, and then you get hurt again, and then after a while you've suffered enough to then make those decisions.
Yeah.
To actually, okay, I'm not gonna kiss a girl before I know this and that about her, for example.
Yeah.
And then you start doing those things, and then you are ready for the right person.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes it's super stupid and simple things. Like, for example, do you want to live in the city or on the countryside? I mean, it can be as simple as that, you know, but those things can make or break your relationship, because that can turn into a huge problem. You know what I mean? But a lot of times we don't really ask ourselves, or let's say our partners, that question, because before we go into a relationship with them. But why don't we? Or maybe it's just me. Maybe everyone does it, but I just didn't. But
I think it's an age thing, and an experience thing. I think some people will do it forever, and they just don't ever grow up. I mean, we know people like that. But it's also, I think it's also maybe a hormonal shift as well. I think it's a mix between like hormonal shifts and then also experience and falling on your face a lot and all of that. One thing that I find really interesting about you is that every time you meet a new person, no matter if it's I don't know, like you're meeting someone romantically or just like to make friends or whatever, people immediately trust you completely, and you are able to build an emotional connection with them fast, which I actually think right now, maybe you have to force yourself to not build too much of a connection if you haven't figured these things out yet, because then the same thing happens again. No, but why do you think people trust you immediately and feel like they can open up?
Well, first of all, that's really nice that you think of me that way. I don't know if I see it the same way too. Well, probably a little bit. I do know that I'm a likable person. I never really had problems like when I come into a new surrounding. Let it be, I don't know, you start a new job, you start to study, you start to whatever, kind of change your environment. I never really had a lot of issues connecting to new people. I don't know, it was just never really hard for me. What was the question again?
It's really funny because we had the same situation with Tina in the first episode. Why do people trust you immediately and feel like they have an emotional connection? They can open up straight away. Even like literally, I've seen it with people that have met you for
I don't know
20 minutes and they already like.
Is it like that?
Yeah, like they tell me, "Oh, Felix, I can talk with him about everything," and
that's nice
they just
to
met you
hear,
like
but
20 minutes ago.
I don't know. I don't know.
I wanted to know the secret,
Because
but he doesn't tell us the secret.
Really... Is it like that?
Yeah, it is like that. I mean, like every time. I think I know the reason.
Tell me.
I just wanted to hear if you like have a theory. I think it's because you are 100% honest all the time and you always have good intentions and you don't just have yourself in mind, but you have the greater good in mind.
Yeah.
I think it's a mix between
I wouldn't say that I always have good intentions. I mean, I think they are good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's relative.
Well, I think that's the thing. It's like
I'm open about my intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you think that you are doing the right thing right now, even though maybe you're not, right?
Yeah.
But you believe that you're doing the right thing. And I think that makes people respect you and trust you.
I try, yeah. That's what I try to do.
And it's crazy because I think this is almost the answer to everything in life, to just be fully honest and have good intentions 100%. Always.
Yeah.
But so many people get this wrong.
Yeah, but it's so simple.
It's simple but difficult.
Yeah, it's like both.
Yeah.
Because in the moment you have to do it and you have to be like brutally honest. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, you spare yourself so much trouble afterwards that when you look at it as a whole, you're going to have the easier life when you are being honest all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even though in the moment,
but like in the long run.
Yeah.
In the long run, because you're just like building up problems like somewhere in the background without noticing it when you're not being honest. But you're not gonna get away with it. It's gonna come back to you.
Yeah. And I think this also goes for not just being honest with other people, but also being honest with yourself. Because sometimes people know exactly what they should do in life.
You always know.
But they don't do it.
My opinion is you always know. At least I always know. That doesn't mean I always do it or I always listen to that voice. But you have that voice. Some people might call it reason. Some people might call it like inner compass or whatever.
I think it's the ultimate courage as well. Because it's like, it's the courage to always do what you believed to be true. What you think is the right thing.
Yeah.
So the mainstream society always tells people, especially men, when it comes to attracting women, just be yourself. And I think there's kind of some truth about this. But then also a lot of men notice, okay, it doesn't work when I'm just myself.
Yeah.
I need to do something to get the women, basically, right? So then they start manipulating and they start to do all these things. What do you think is the answer? Like, what do you think is... Because I don't think it's a black or white solution.
No, nothing's black or white. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely more on the being authentic side.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Where do you think, because you're more on the authentic side or more on the just be yourself side, where do you think just be yourself doesn't work and there's something wrong with that?
That's kind of a hard question. What do you think? What would you say?
I mean, if you just say to yourself, just be yourself, then you don't usually change.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you tell someone be yourself, they think they are like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do everything the way I always did it and I'm not going to change everything. Yeah. But that doesn't really mean being yourself because a lot of people, I think, they are not being themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they actually have to change something in order to become or to
themselves.
be.
And also, I think they don't really know what it means to be yourself.
Yeah.
They're limited.
Yeah.
Like they have a certain belief or several beliefs, and they have identified with those beliefs, like what we said earlier, and they think this is
That's
me.
them. Yeah.
But
it's
that's
not them.
not actually
it's
them.
something, I mean, there's a big difference between something you believe in and something you do and what you are. Doing something, believing something, and being something are different things. You know what I mean?
I think actually the solution to this problem, especially when it comes to dating and so on, is you have to always be true to yourself.
Yeah.
So not just be yourself, because that, like, I mean, it is kind of be yourself, but like we discussed, you don't really know who you are and whatever. But be true to yourself, and that's the same as we said before, be honest to yourself all the time. So if you're true to yourself and you know that you really, really want your life to look this way and all that, and you really want this, then you have to go after it, even if you have fear, right? Even if you have something that's stopping you because you are like, you want to be an artist, but you sign up to be an engineer.
Yeah.
because that's what your parents told you to do. No,
Yeah.
you should be an artist, right? That's being true to yourself. And I think it's the same with dating, because you have to, you can improve yourself. You can improve your conversation skills, for example. That's totally fine. That's not inauthentic.
Yeah.
That's just you being a better communicator makes you better at showing your authentic self.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, I mean, just think of it that way. I mean, what would be the alternative? I mean, if you're not being yourself, you may be successful in attracting partner or whatever, but what kind of partner is that? What kind of person is that going to be? I mean, it's just not gonna be, logically, it's just not gonna be a good match for you.
Yeah. I mean, even if you are able to attract someone through this way, you are actually not able to attract this person. The fake person that you have created is able to attract this person.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They don't actually know you.
And you're never going to be able to keep that up forever. And you also wouldn't want to, I think.
Yeah.
Because that would be hell. I mean, what kind of relationship would that be?
Yeah, because for the rest of your life, you will have to, live with a mask, basically. Yeah. So what other things do you think most men get wrong about dating and women?
I'm not really a big fan of all this like pick-up artist scene thingy. I think that's kind of stupid, to be honest. I mean, if you're super insecure, it maybe does make sense to kind of inform yourself about how you can be more confident, because I do think that confidence is important when it comes to that topic. But being confident is not equal to being an asshole. You know what I mean? And I do kind of get it. I mean, I've seen it like 2 or 3 times in the center of the city where I live, like guys just walking around and like cold approaching random girls and getting rejected and just moving on to the next girls like 10 meters down the road. And to be honest, I really understand why those guys get rejected, because I don't really understand how any girl or person in general could find that attractive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just never really understood that, because it's also just so obvious that the only thing that made you approach this person is that you are attracted to them superficially because you don't even know them. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I really understand why that kind of technique or whatever you want to call it doesn't work out for a lot of people,
Mhm.
because why would it work out?
And I think it doesn't work out because they're not being authentic. Because if they just want to talk to a woman on the streets that they think is beautiful,
Yeah.
well, then they should probably go up to her and tell her that
Yeah.
instead of
Exactly.
trying to
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
make it look like they just want to ask her for directions or whatever and all that. And I'm not saying this is wrong to ask women for directions and then transition to something else,
course,
but you
because-
shouldn't always do this. Like, you shouldn't make this your job. Like you
Yeah.
shouldn't make this your main strategy. Maybe you can do this, like, for example, in your early 20s, when you really need to get over this fear of approaching. Then you do this for a while, then you get over it, and you did it for like what, a month or something, and then
Yeah.
you got over it, and that's it. Now you go and work on your life, become the most competent person you can possibly be, so that you actually have something to offer.
Yeah.
Because if you have nothing to offer, women are not going to
Yeah.
like you no matter how you approach them.
Yeah. And I also do think that most men kind of have that idea that all the women are only into guys that are like super tough and like super manly and like
Mhm.
super masculine. And I mean, I don't know if there are like tendencies or whatever, but even if, I mean, it's the topic that we had before. If that's not you, that's not you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think there's a fit for everyone.
I mean, and yeah, you can work on your tough side, for example, because
Yeah.
everyone has a
But
tough
it still
side.
has to be your side,
But,
not
yeah.
a side that you invent.
Yeah, like,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, what do you actually think women like about you? Because you were extremely popular. When it comes to women, like, women love you everywhere you go. And I mean, yeah,
That's just not true.
it is true.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not. It's
I've seen
not
it. I've seen it.
No.
He's very humble, but I've seen it many times.
Well,
I mean, not all
maybe
women,
they
but like
my
most.
being humble.
Yeah, maybe that's it. No, I actually think that is one of the things they like about you.
I do think. I
Yeah.
mean, I know
Yeah.
that because people told me that
Yeah.
they like that about me.
What else? I have some things on my mind, but I won't.
I mean, I'm
I
just
hear it
gonna
from
tell
here.
you the things that people actually told me, because how else would I know?
Yeah,
Um,
he knows, but he doesn't want to say it because he doesn't want to not be humble.
No, I mean, I just don't want to like assume things.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm just gonna tell you the things that I know for sure, and I do know them for sure because people told me that
Yeah.
they like this about me. So what I've heard is that people like me for my honesty.
Mhm.
That's probably like,
Number one.
I think I can be funny. I hope. I
Yeah.
try.
And that's a sign of intelligence.
Yeah, people say
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot of times. That I don't know if it's true, but
And that
that's
is
what
actually a big
people
one
say, yeah.
that I'm going to add. People like your intelligence because you're
Yeah,
extremely intelligent.
I'm intelligent.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not stupid. Definitely not. I really do think that my biggest strength is that I'm authentic. I'm just gonna tell you what I want. I'm gonna tell you what I think, what I feel, and what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't always like that. And I kind of actively try to develop that trait or that skill or whatever you want to call it. And I did notice the difference. I do notice that
Mhm.
it does make a difference. You know what I mean?
And how do you usually meet women?
Well, the thing is, I'm not that much of an extroverted kind of person. I've never, and I could never be that guy that just walks down the street and just picks some girl and just approaches her and, you know, does his pickup thing.
Which is really funny because a lot of guys nowadays believe that this is the only way to meet
Yeah.
quality women.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's really not, because you
No, it's
clearly
not.
are meeting quality women, but you have never done that.
I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit embarrassing for me, but I'm still gonna be honest. But like 90% of women I met was through online dating apps.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, 90% probably.
Yeah.
And the other 10%, maybe 80, between 80 and 90, well, doesn't matter. But the biggest part, okay, and the other part, the smaller part, would be women I just met, I don't know, at university, at school, just in life, you know what I mean? But never somewhere that I went like specifically in order to look for someone to approach. Like
Mhm.
not even once in my life.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, and never in a club or anything.
Yeah. And that's not to say that that's the wrong way of doing it. Like,
No,
approaching
that's
women is
just-
totally
no, yeah.
fine. Like, I actually
I don't think my way
Yeah.
is a good way. Actually, I don't want to sound like
yeah.
okay, doing like online dating is
Is the
a
way.
good way.
Yeah.
Is the way or a good way. I actually think it's kind of stupid, but it was kind of a way that worked for me. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because I'm a little bit. I can be kind of shy sometimes. So it was a convenient way for me, and it did work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think it worked?
Why do I think it worked?
What's your profile look like?
Yeah.
Tell us every little detail, every sentence that you wrote. Okay.
Because of what we talked about earlier, that I like right now I'm kind of in a phase where I'm thinking that I don't want to have those kind of casual relationships anymore. But when I still wanted to have those kinds of relationships, I don't know, I try to take good pictures,
Mhm.
authentic pictures that show like not only what you look like, but also what you like, what you do.
I took some of them actually.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. And I always just put it right there in my profile, what I'm looking for.
Mhm. So straightforward.
Straightforward, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of women will not like that actually, but some women
Yeah,
will
but
really
the
like
ones
that.
that don't like that, I don't want those. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And I
okay
think-
that they don't like it.
And I think that's a really big mindset thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that you have that a lot of guys don't have, because they try to attract all women.
Yeah.
And that just is not a good idea.
True, yeah, and that actually makes me think of another point, which is I don't know if that's true, but I always had the feeling that it also has something to do with the algorithm of the apps. But I always tried to be really, really picky.
Mhm.
I was always really picky, and I did have the feeling that those apps kind of, like their algorithm kind of rewarded me.
Yeah.
For being picky. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it also just makes sense because, I mean, why would you not be picky? Why would you want to meet a person that you actually don't really like that much? You know, why should you settle for less?
Yeah. And I think what you also did was you made the profile filter out people by being authentic,
Yeah, definitely.
right?
Definitely.
And also by certain types of pictures. So it's clear what sort
Yeah.
of person you are.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
know who you are, so they're like, am I a good match for him or not? And the women that are not a good match for you, they won't
Yeah,
even
definitely.
swipe right
and
on
I
you.
also think that I know what kind of women find me attractive
Mhm.
and what kinds of women don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I can tell, okay, this person is probably the type of person that might like me,
Mhm.
and this one not. And I might find that one super attractive, but I still have to admit to myself that she's not gonna like me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I think
And that's
like
okay
from
as well.
experience, I can kind of tell like how my chances are for
Yeah.
for this person or for that person.
Sorry, guys, this was the moment where my camera died, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to tell you about my newsletter. If you're enjoying this podcast and you would like to go on a deep dive inside my mind, you would definitely love the Outside the Box newsletter. This is where I discuss all my newest thoughts coupled with some tips and tricks and other outside the box ideas I'm exploring. There is no other piece of free content where I offer as much practical advice as in my newsletter, so be sure to check it out. You can find the link in the show notes below, where you can also find the links to all my social media accounts and everything else I think you should check out. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of this episode. I think you're very good at not just emotionally connecting with people and not just intellectually connecting with people, but both.
Yeah.
How are you able to keep that balance?
The balance between what?
Between kind of like creating an emotional connection with someone, but also being able to have intellectual discussions with them.
With one and the same person, you mean?
Yeah, because oftentimes people have, like when they, for example, they want to build an emotional connection with someone, but they're having an intellectual discussion, and that makes kind of like them lose the emotional side. So people feel like, oh yeah, I can have a wonderful discussion with this person, but they don't really feel the emotional side of things. Or it's the other way around sometimes.
I'm not really actively doing it. The thing is that if I can't have that intellectual connection to someone, it's impossible for me to start to feel the like emotional connection. So I need the intellectual connection in order to like have feelings or start to connect to the same person in an emotional way as well.
Yeah, but how do you think it is possible for you to do like both at once? You know, like for you, for example, for you to when you're talking with someone, like you're talking to a woman, how do you make it clear that this is not just a friendship thing?
Oh, that's okay. Now I'm understanding the question. Well, that's not gonna lie, that's super difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes don't know how to do it. I mean, and I mean, there's people which kind of make it easy for you, and there's people which kind of make it super hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just try to, same thing, being authentic. Just try to let them know or feel that you kind of like them. You
Exactly.
Just tell them.
Yeah. Which is so simple, but people don't do that.
Yeah.
People are afraid of what will happen.
Just tell
when
them,
they tell them that they like
or show them. I mean, if I like, I don't know, through physical touch, you have to be careful with that, obviously, because you don't know how that person might react to it. Or, just don't just go ahead and whatever, grab someone and no, but there's many ways to let someone know that you like them. So just let them know and just be okay with being rejected. Sometimes it's difficult, obviously, because, for example, if it's someone that you are like, that's a colleague of yours, and you get rejected, that's going to have certain consequences because you're going to see this person like literally every day at work. So sometimes it's really difficult, but I don't have the solution for that. Some things I think are just,
you can't be
gonna
perfect
stay
either.
difficult.
Things
like are just difficult.
Yeah.
But, in general, I would just say I try to make it obvious that I like someone.
And I think you're also very good at reading situations.
Yeah.
And knowing when it's the right moment.
It's usually not a one-way road, but usually you kind of always have to read the signals the other person is giving you. And I think I can kind of, because I told you I'm kind of a shy person, so as long as I don't see like at least a teeny tiny small signal, I will probably not make a move.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and it's probably good to work on that and also make a move without receiving a signal, a clear signal first. But that's me.
I think it's fine. I think what you do is you hang out with her until and because you have worked on yourself so much, just by her getting to know you in a friendly way, like like as if it's just a friend, she will if she's a good match for you, without you having to do anything, she will feel attracted to you, and then she will give you small signals. Yeah, and you jump on that.
You
those
have to
signals.
get the signals. I think a lot of people don't get the signals because at the
You
beginning
mean they don't get them, or they don't understand. They can't read them.
They can't read them. Yeah. They don't. Yeah, they don't get it. That's a signal. In the beginning, first of all, I mean, if you're meeting someone for the first time, like let's say the first day, that you're meeting someone, they're not gonna give you. And I'm not talking like about an online date where it's already clear, like under what kind of context you're meeting that person. No, I'm talking about like meeting someone by coincidence, and you kind of try to see if this person might be interested in you or not. The signals are not going to be huge. I mean, it's like, but sometimes you just notice that someone is looking at you,
Yeah.
And I mean, super small signals, but then once you receive something like that, you can kind of try to give back the same signal, and then kind of it amplifies back and forth, and then eventually there comes the point where it's like obvious what it means. You know what I mean?
Now, I already hear the voices of a lot of people, like my clients, for example, who are asking, so how do you develop the skill of being able to read those signals?
Yeah. I mean, just think about, what do you do if you find someone attractive? You look at them all the time.
Yeah.
First thing, for example. I just always try to compare it to myself. I always try to think, what am I doing in a situation where there's a person that I'm attracted to or that I like a lot, and I try to recognize those things that I would do in such a situation in that person.
And actually, you have to be present in the moment for you to be able to see those things.
Yeah.
If you're caught up in your thoughts about how to impress her and all that stuff, you're not going to see the signals.
Yeah.
And I also think that the way to develop it is not just by practicing going on dates, where that is a way to develop it, but also practicing in general socializing with people, like having a lot of people, or not a lot of, but like having good friendships and so on. Like what we have a good friendship, because this way you kind of get to know people in general, and you learn how to read people.
Yeah.
And that helps you in every situation. It doesn't matter if it's a dating situation, business situation, with your family or anything. You start being able to read people better.
Yeah. And what I also really like, which is kind of like a trick for cowards, but sometimes I'm a coward. But it worked like 1 or 2 times. Is if you see someone that you like find attractive and you would like to just talk to that person, or maybe ask them if you can exchange phone numbers or anything. I'll ask a friend. I'm like, I like this girl. Could you maybe just go there and tell her, like, my friend over there in the corner?
That's actually nice.
The weird one, because he likes you.
Yeah, I mean, that's an old school technique, but it works.
And it works, from my experience, it works better if that friend that does it for you is a female friend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that works. Because then she sees that you have women around you, and that makes them trust you.
So I would say if you're a coward, I'm a coward sometimes, but if you're a coward, be a coward, but be a smart coward.
I like that one. That's actually, that would be a good sentence to end this podcast.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you one more question, a very random question.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know the answer. What is the most interesting birthday present
Oh.
you've ever gifted?
Yeah, that's actually a shame that the camera just died, because the answer is really easy. And that would be the birthday present I gave to you. Like, actually not long ago, like a month ago, it was Mario's birthday, and the present was that I pierced his ear. I'm not a piercer. I might have to add that. That's like the third or fourth. No, I think it was the fourth time that I pierced someone's ear, but I never.
And one of the people he did it to, he actually missed it, and he had to pierce him twice.
Yeah. He wanted to have two, like one on each side, but he actually has 3 holes in his ears right
That's
now.
amazing.
But yeah, it worked out well for Mario. I mean, it's
it's
good.
slowly healing.
I like it, and it looks like it's healing
Yeah.
kind of well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
That would be it, definitely. And he didn't know that, because he was always, well, not always, but like for the past, I would say, few months, I kind of noticed that Mario had this like idea in his head, because a few times he was, maybe an earring, that could suit me. And I was like, yeah, you wait. So the present I gave him was it wrapped? I don't remember.
It was wrapped, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So.
And he was very excited for me to open it. And I was like, I've never seen him this excited. I don't know what's going to happen now.
And it was outside, like by a campfire and everything. So I took everything. I had everything prepared, like with rubber gloves and disinfection and, like wet towels and everything. So he opened the package, and what was inside was like this small transparent plastic bag with a bunch of needles in it.
And I hate needles.
He instantly knew. Instantly knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the present.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. You're welcome. Thank you for letting me do it. It was fun.
And we definitely have to have another episode where I sort out the battery of my camera, so we can have a fully filmed podcast episode and not just have the audio version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure. It was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also find the links to my other social media accounts in the show notes below. Besides that, if you would like to go on a deep dive inside my mind, don't forget to sign up for the Outside the Box newsletter. And last but not least, don't forget that no one buys rotten fruit.